speaker will be Mr. Sudhakar Desai. He is the CEO of Emami Agrotech in Kolkata in India for the past 8 years. Mr. Desai is a management graduate from IRMA, Institute of Rural Management in India, and has over 30 years of experience in the agribusiness and international trade. Emami Agrotech is currently one of the prominent players in the sector and has a exponential growth so far. And he had earlier served as the director of Bombay Commodity Exchange and is a recipient of the prestigious Man of the Globe Oil Award in 2008. So not to take the floor for much longer, I would invite Mr. Desai to deliver your presentations. Please, Mr. Desai.
It's my pleasure meeting the delegates, and I learned so much important points, and so that I know what I'm going to impress upon or emphasize upon in my presentation. I would like to cover more of the global trade, the implications, the role of palm oil in India, the segmentation, and the changing trends currently, and a little bit about what can be done together. Yes, the next one, please. Very 1 minute on IVPA, and basically IVPA is a very old organization of 40 years. Earlier it was known as Vanaspati Producers Association. In the last 1 or 2 years, we have changed it to impart all the refineries in India. Our objective is to become a credible voice in the policy matters, and also keep apprised on the market intelligence issues related to supply chain and on the policy matters. Yeah, next one, please. Just broadly, before I jump into the business aspects of it, oil palm has very meager 0.11% of the whole land, and whereas the food demand is increased to be increasing by 50%, and there is not much of an arable land. So palm oil is, to my mind, is a price equalizer in the edible oil space. Next one, please. Out of the total agriculture land, it's very interesting to know that only 5.4% is currently under oilseeds production globally. Because today everybody is talking about, every YouTuber is talking constantly about the food inflation, and a lot of strategic global issues are there in front of us, whether you produce food or fuel. Coming back to India, even we have this discussion whether it should be wheat, rice, or oilseed, the deficient oilseed that we should produce. And basically the lifetime high prices have attracted the government attention, and also crop shifts that I'm going to speak a little bit about. Next one, please. The current global factors, just to summarize in one slide, the concern for food inflation is enabling various governments to take different steps. As you know, I'm very happy that all Indian refineries are very happy that the so-called restrictions from Indonesia have been removed, creating a free flow probably from today onwards, which is a very redeeming good news. And on the other side, we have a very tight situation. Malaysia has been carrying the baton for last 1 month, exporting oil. I think Indonesia also did a good job right now, giving India nearly close to about 100,000 tons of oil. As you know, roughly India needs about 700,000 tons of oil every month. Indonesia seems to have resolved somewhat the domestic price pressure point, which is a good news. South American crops are very tight. Brazil is 123 million tons versus 138. Argentina production has been stagnant, and you have the crisis which will eventually unfold. But otherwise, we started the year with a very cheap sun oil prices. I'm going to talk a little bit about the prices, how dramatic they've been. And the high prices have also led, believably, to a drop in consumption. In China, we have seen about 12 to 15% of drop in consumption. Of course, we would never know whether fully how much of it is the release of reserves and the replenishment. In India, definitely, I'm going to show a slide what is happening to palm imports and also what is happening to the overall consumption. Biofuel mandates are being currently reviewed because of high prices. We heard about Finland, and we also hearing about Europe. Germany, I understand, can be a big item in terms of biofuel reversal because it can ease the food supplies right now. Next one, please. A little bit more than the supply and demand. Currently, I think the whole world, all of us are focusing on the supply chain issues and its impacts on the policy. I firmly believe that behind a policy by any one of these impactful countries is basically supply demand also, and the level of consumer prices and farm prices balancing that they would like to do. We started off with a very great canola, very low canola crop, compensated hugely with Ukraine and Russia, which were promising to produce 7 million tons excess till the crisis began. And of course, the South American crops, like I said, already they were stagnant. India has done a wonderful job in mustard. The crop has grown up by 23%, which is the reason why in the last 1 or 2 months, India could manage with low palm oil imports. On the other side, the Chinese bean imports are quite robust, but oils are very much down. And Indonesia, Malaysia, you know that Malaysian production has been a little bit stagnant, but Indonesia is the one which has been having surpluses to keep the price stable in the world markets. Next one, please. This is just to show nothing very complex here, except that in the import portfolio of India, actually, contrary to general belief, vegetable oil is hardly about 3.1% of the total at $17 billion. India's total import bill is $170 billion, as you can see. And on exports also, India is quite robust in some of these items. Not definitely in the agri space. We hardly have much of an agri exports except soybean meal and groundnut and a little bit of mustard. Next one, please. But that slide should make think the Indonesia and India commercial business history much beyond oils. That much is the scope between Indonesia and India. As far as the consumption is concerned, if I look at it last few years, palm oil has been degrowing. I think currently for the year to estimate, we are estimating hardly 7.7 million tons from the 10 million tons of the past. The reason being a couple of things. One is the slightly increasing domestic production. And also in the last 1 year, definitely 1.5 years, the spread with palm and price has narrowed down. The price spread has narrowed down. But talking about the image and price, we also sell a lot of oil downstream. I believe that price is a perception. It is not that palm oil is cheap. Today, at times, we have seen dramatic changes. Sun oil was cheaper than palm, and soybean oil was also cheaper than palm. But I believe as a major seller within India, we find that palm oil has got its own core demand, and price is merely a perception. I think it's more about its application in the food sector, and in specific geographies of India, it is for consumption, which I'm going to touch upon because it will tell us something about the promotion campaign segmentation and the targeted segmentation that we can do. Next one, please. Palm oil import composition. This is also a very major policy area. That is the flip-flop between India importing finished goods as against crude oils. We have seen the years where, for example, 2019, palmolene or a finished goods import from Malaysia were very high. Currently, all the finished goods are coming from Indonesia in 22, whereas more of crude palm oil has been coming from Malaysia. Basically, Malaysian share in crude palm oil has increased, and in finished goods it has decreased. I think the reason is very obvious, that as I can see, the overall crude palm oil exports itself from Indonesia are dramatically coming down to the world markets. Next one, please. Talking about domestic production in its simplicity, we have about total requirement is 22 million tons. We have about 9.2 million tons, which is a good growth compared to last year. Even without any emission on oil seeds, we have had a 28% growth in domestic oils. Major oils are basically cotton and rapeseed has a good growth. Rice bran oil is catching up, and there are a lot of other oils. Basically, at this price table, the trigger to the farmer is there. And I must also say that at this price table, it makes more sense in terms of farmer remuneration to grow more oil seeds than wheat and rice and sugar, in which we are surplus. I think that change is definitely happening. Next one, please. Higher production of soybean, we have seen 14%, but it's very strange. Despite a good production, due to huge volatilities and policies, we have had months in which we are importing soybean meal. There are months in which we are exporting. So as I can see, eventually India can be a net importer and exporter as well. Overall domestic availability I've already seen. Mustard seed also I've touched upon. The Horeca and home consumption shifts are very interesting within India. During the last 2 years, I think we have learned so much that when there is COVID restrictions, I think we see the demand growing into the household consumption. And when it does, you will have the bulk packs like tins not happening, and the tanker business to the bakery is not happening. So I think these shifts driven by the COVID induced consumer behavior has been huge. India has responded in various ways, to some of which duty reduction has been one. The domestic exchanges have been shut in India. And of course, we as IVPA have been asking that the risk management cannot be thrown out of the window. It has to come back at some stage, because it is a very good mechanism for even hedging the domestic produce. Unlike the Indonesian little bit of, I would not say struggle, but a little bit of stress in terms of public distribution, I think India has got a robust 500,000 outlets of public distribution and a ration card holder delivery system, which it's doing a good job of in terms of wheat and rice and so many other staples for the distribution to the poorer sections of the people. Of course, we've been telling that instead of importing, they should be directly bought from the Indian refineries, so that we can also do the necessary value addition within India. It could be domestic oils. I think this is implemented in some states, but not everywhere. National Mission on Oilseed is expected to boost the domestic production, but it doesn't mean that we will become self-sufficient very fast. I think at the best possible estimates we as IVPA have done, in the next 6 years, combined with oil palm and some of the oils, even if we reach 40-45% domestic import dependency, as against 65% without forgiving the growth in consumption, normal growth in consumption, I think that's very much doable target. Oil palm itself is a good, well integrated, thought of program. But going back to our original discussions, I think the oil palm itself validates the goodness of palm oil within India, and a way also to provide socially relevant economic medium to the farmers and villages within India. Next one, please. I'll just show what could happen actually in oil mission in a slide. As we can see, high prices from 19, stressed by high prices, the consumption has degrown, which is actually quantified is humongous. It's like 2.2 million tons of lower consumption as against 2.2 million tons of growth. So I think high prices definitely have compelled the overall consumption to degrow. And for the year to come in 21-22, we expect 12.53 million tons of imports, the breakup of which I'll just come to in a while. Next one, please. I think before we speak about we have spoken earlier with Indonesian officers also about where does this palm oil go basically. I think we would put household consumption as over 30%, bakery and vanaspati is 15%, snacks and food sector, which is savories, what we call namkeen, what we see in India, and also I would include the street food sector into this. That is about 25%. And the biscuit industry is very huge. We have organized and unorganized biscuit industry. Palm needs to have a little bit of edge in the Horeca sector, because, for example, we are running refineries all over India at major ports. We see some of the consumers at a very close price shifting to rice bran oil. But eventually, all this will be temporary. I think in the last 10 years or 15 years that we see, surely because of the supply-demand factors, eventually price advantage will be there for palm, because other oil prices will go up as and when such a shift happens. So in terms of promotion, it has to be definitely Horeca and B2B, but in terms of household, it can be targeted in specific states. If you really study the consumption basket deeply, you will find that there are some states like Bihar, Orissa, and Tamil Nadu, and Andhra Pradesh. In certain states, it is much more penetrated deeply into household than elsewhere. Some of these things become very important when we look at promotion of palm oil, which is very well widely accepted in India. Next one, please. Oil palm mission targets are big, to go to 2.8 million tons of production from the 350,000 tons today. There are various areas, obviously starting with South and Northeast. It's not easy, but doable. The government scheme has thought of a lot of logistics, and right from seed gardens to inputs and infrastructure. I think it's a very comprehensive plan, unlike in the past. And also, more importantly, the price factor has been the most critical element, which has also been addressed, that they have the government promises to give an assured viability price as against the market price, and assures to give them the difference price in case there is any loss. The main issue is basically the gestation period and funding of the crop. This is where I see, like Mr. Sinamara mentioned, so many ideas for food for thought. We as IVPA, we don't mind providing some oil for that food. I think we can educate players both on the Indonesian side and Indian side to see the business opportunity in making oil palm mission happen. Like I said, it's a 10-year program, long drawn, but it's a very, very important crop. More importantly, it validates the palm oil into India and provides a social and economic platform. Next one, please. Indian duties have been going down, as you know, but I just want to highlight that it is the duty differential. Indian refineries obviously want slightly higher differential. That is because there is always this make in India versus imports. I don't think there is the truth lies in either of these statements, but in a right balance from a timing perspective. Currently, due to high prices, India has opened up refined oils as well, and this policy will keep changing depending on the situation. Next one, please. But here, talking about duties, I can only make one request. I think during this period of Indian duty reduction consistently, I think Indonesian export duties have gone up very steeply. So that has in turn caused not only the inflation in palm oil prices, but it has impacted globally. There's no one way about it. It's all about what is that equilibrium point between managing the treasury and the producers and the farmers. I think that dilemma we see in every country about balancing these three factors. Palm oil imports, it's necessary to note and understand and analyze why they've been dramatically changing from nearly 1.2, 1.3 million tons in the month of September. We go as low as 450,000 tons in the month of December. So I think it's all about prices and the competing crops. As you can see, there are a lot of competing crops which are trying to take market share. India being the largest importer, and sun oil imports have come down, and you can also see that some kind of a prices have merged into prices have price spreads have a huge impact on the quantum of imports. Next one, please. Yeah, I would not highlight too much because this is always known. I would only say that it was clear that Indonesia would require to export 2 to 2 million tons every month. From our point of view, from India context, yeah, there is the domestic supplies to be maintained within Indonesia, which should be the priority number one for Indonesia, and that is being achieved even at a cost of $125 per ton. And cost of biofuel, I think Indonesia has done a humongous task of making green fuel happen for domestic industries. That is huge, even at such a at a mandated price. Revenue from exports is close to 1 billion. So I know it would have been so tough for Indonesia to stay away from the world market because it also affects the exchequer. In terms of export duty levy, I think the policy is very clear that Indonesia would like to export more crude oil because the incentive given to RBD palm oil by way of the duty and levy is only $408. And for RBD, it is $386. So we look at Indonesia wanting to export more and more the finished goods only. Next one, please. In terms of currently where we stand, I just want to reiterate that the biofuel mandates are being reviewed globally because every country is facing lifetime high prices, which has attracted every government attention. It's very difficult to look at and unlock these things, but I see more pressure point. In US, we have seen consistent talks about it, that we would reduce the biofuel mandate. I mean, looking at the tight situation, I feel that probably a temporary, little slower biofuel program can enable the price to come over, because eventually by the month of August, the global supplies will resume, and hopefully the sun oil crisis will also get over. It's only a temporary problem that everyone is facing in terms of high prices. The first three countries are related to soft oils, and whereas when it is Malaysia, Indonesia, and part of EU, it is about palm oil blending into the fuel. Next one, please. I would not spend much time, but just want to highlight the same point that we see Indonesian production from our IVPA estimates to be about 48.1 million tons as against 46 million tons of last year. Malaysia is marginally higher. I think this is the time when we need more and more palm oil, including from Malaysia. There are a lot of R&D. I think both Malaysia and Indonesia are miles ahead in terms of R&D and production practices. So there is always a scope to come and help your biggest customer in Asia with oil palm mission. Next one, please. Just to sum up, two things. I think I mentioned some of these issues already. We as IVP Association are working towards recommendations in the oilseed sector. In case we spend $3 billion in the next 3 years, I think India can have more of groundnut and sunflower and soya and rice bran, especially mustard, because it's non-import substitutable at some stage, whether GM or weather resistant hybrid technologies, because one of the major problems within India has been the yields because of small land holding and lack of application of fertilizers, which also used to happen in farm globally once in a while, lower application of fertilizers. So I think gradually, I think the effort is to improve the domestic supplies. Next one, please. I just want to summary comments. I think I tried to explain the global factors influencing trade and the trade flows, and how each country's policy is no longer internal, but it goes beyond the borders. And as far as IVP and Indonesia is concerned, I think we can look for a coordinated, collaborative, win-win situations to work on some of the issues which were mentioned so far earlier, and we can play a role in terms of joint efforts in promotion of palm oil, so that the import volumes of palm oil can become more stable. And some of these issues are very strategic at the moment. Each sensitive issue has a lot of implications, both on farm sector, on the trade and the industry and the consumer. I think some of the areas mentioned earlier, we can get together and specifically work out with your offices as to what can be done. We also have tied up as IVPA with RSPO for promoting sustainability issues. There is a lot of work to do in these directions. And for now, thanks for this opportunity to present my views in this forum. Thank you. Thank you once again.
Thank you so much, Mr. Desai, for the excellent presentations. I have several points that I took note from your presentation. That palm oil is a social economic medium for these small farmers in India. And the household is the biggest user of palm oil, approximately 30%. So this data, I believe, can be a guide in the development of a comprehensive marketing strategy of palm oil in India. And also, one country's policy is no longer internal, but already interdependent. The next question, I would like to request Mr. Fahmi Prayoga to have his questions. Thank you.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much, and thank you very much, all panelists, for your enlightening presentation. I have two questions. The first one, I would like to address it to Mr. Sudhakar Desai. So it's about the image of palm oil in the Indian market. So despite palm oil being the most widely used vegetable oil in India, it suffers from, let me say, severe image problem. What do you think triggered this situation? Was it because the palm oil being cheap? Was it because it was sold in ration shops? Because Al Jazeera, in one of its article a while back in 2020, it says that palm oil is the poor man's oil. So, since you mentioned in your presentation, Mr. Desai, that there's a Indian national mission to achieve 3 million metric tons of palm oil by 2030, would these efforts helps in rectifying the negative perception of palm oil in India? And the second question, I would like to address it to Pak Maulizal. You mentioned in your slides that BPDPKS, the palm oil Fund Plan Agency already has an action plan for India. You mentioned about exhibition and trade show, industry forum, bilateral relationship, and so on and so forth. Is it within your plan to do a joint research, for example, with the IOPR, for example, because Dr. Suresh already mentioned a concrete joint research proposal, something like that, Dr. Suresh. So I think it will be beneficial for both governments if this kind of joint research can be financed by the BPDPKS. Thank you very much.
Hello?
Yes, you're audible.
Yes, audible. Okay. This is a very interesting issue. You see, I don't think anything is cheap. We also do a lot of consumer surveys. The consumer who is buying palm oil, he or she thinks that they're getting value for money. We have seen very palm oil cheaper by, let's say, $200. We have seen palm oil $100 higher. We have seen in India mustard oil, which was selling at $500 costlier than palm oil. At one stage, it became, same as palm oil prices. So to me, the prices are more dictated by the global supply-demand factors. It does have some marginal impact on the consumption basket. Number two, I think everybody says that it was in a ration shop oil. That is very long back, and now I think it's more and more acceptable. More to do in terms of how it is projected. If the cheapness of price is the reason, some of the market forces have solved it by, let's say, before the Ukraine crisis. I do remember palm oil was selling at higher prices than sunflower oil, which was otherwise traditionally $400 premium to palm oil. Okay, so in a nutshell, I think it's all about how it is projected and promoted specifically, like I mentioned, segment-wise. Of course, predominantly because it is Horeca, some issue, some price stickiness will always remain because not because of palm is negatively imaged, it is because the products that all these people sell are price sensitive, like a biscuit, like a samosa, like whatever items that are commercial products that are made out of that or price sensitive, and oil and today makes a large component of such a cost component of these products. That is the reason for the price stickiness. But as far as image is concerned, it's all about more communication about the goodness of oil. I think a contribution by the Indonesian and suppliers and ourselves as a refineries and refinery association with an economic interest in promoting oil, because our business and P&L is related to how we manage the supply chain and the price of the palm oil. As far as imagery is concerned, yes, I mean, why not? It's a journey which you will create and position palm oil as a product. This is what in my earlier conversations with my colleagues in Indonesia and Malaysia, the same thing, that we have to be very specific in the marketing objectives. So that's what I think.
Thank you so much for the explanation. Do you have any more additional questions?
Yes, actually about the Indian national mission on producing 3 million metric tons of palm oil by 2030. Do you think it will increase the acceptability of the image of palm oil in India because of it being homegrown?
Yeah, so again, I would go back to the consumer again. Okay, see, the supply side changes. Of course, the Indian mission on oilseeds creates not only an acceptability that India is accepted to grow it, but India is accepted to use it 40 years ago, right? So there's no problem with the credibility of the palm oil, but yes, it is a small portion of import substitutability out of let's say 10, 11, 12 million tons. If you produce 2.5 to 3 million tons eventually ourselves, India does eventually in the long run. It's like that. So to me, it's more about putting the right resources and land in use, making it a commercially viable venture, helping the farmers who are going to grow it, and achieve efficient. I mean, it's proven that it's the most efficient oil in terms of remuneration at these prices. I'm pretty sure palm oil production in India would be one of the most profitable avenues if the prices stay this way, or even lower. I think it's sheerly because of the yield. I'm also very happy to know Mr. K. Suresh opinion that we are also producing 8 million tons. Let me tell you, if it is 8 tons per hectare, then this 2.5 to 3 million can become even 4.5 to 5 million, because 3 million is calculated on roughly around an average of 3 tons per hectare yield. So I think definitely it adds to the supply chain and adds to the credibility and adds to the goodness of palm oil.
Thank you so much, Mr. Desai. So,
please like and subscribe IVPA channel.